In this segment, we look at the absolutely bizarre, incredible, and mind-boggling story which belongs to Mike Smith, the lifelong ET abductee experiencer who also had this incredible supernatural link with English serial killers Fred and Rosemary West, and ultimately ending up looking like his twin for at least a period of time. A more bizarre story there is not, and it spans some decades. And perhaps after all it might be worth the police revisiting the far long ago cases of Fred and Rosemary West. When he was in the UK, when he was still in the army, he came to do a couple of years training for the special forces. He didn't get into that because he ended up breaking both his ankles in the training, poor thing. And so they gave him light duties, still in the army. On one of these occasions, he was having a break home and he'd been dropped off in Bristol. Now, Bristol area and Gloucester is the stomping ground of Fred West. Not that Mike knew this. He had never heard of Fred and Rosemary West, and this would be circa 1971. The world did not know of Fred West. The only people who knew Fred West and Rosemary West at this time were the neighbours or his family or friends. So bear that in mind. Mike is dropped off in Bristol, and what he wants to do is to get another lift, hitchhike another lift to the Stourbridge area, to his parents' place. And he sees a pub, good old Mike. He says, I'll go and ask them which is the best way to go and have a few pints before. So that's exactly what he does. So he goes off and has a few pints, and everybody in the pub is saying to him, "Are you Fred's brother?" Well, he doesn't know who they're talking about and who or what Fred is. He went, "No." And then one of them got a bit rude and said, "Well, your mother must have a bike." And he did get a bit shirty then. I don't blame him. Those were just locals. And apparently he must have looked extremely like Fred West. Now, Fred West was a good 9 years older than Mike. I think quite a bit bigger. I've got a couple of images of Fred West and Mike, and you know what? They look scarily alike. Anyway, yeah, they do. But they really do look alike. Anyway, so the pub closes, and he's toward the end of his injury, so he can walk without sticks, and he's maybe hobbling along a little bit because he's still in his recovery time. And he sees a little road or lane, and he walks up it. He thinks, well, if I turn off that, there's bound to be a main road. I'll get a lift. So that was his thinking. Now, as he's walking up this lane, a black Mariah kind of vehicle pulls up, and a Mariah is like the old-fashioned black police vehicles, as I'm told. Picture of that in the book as well, with the sliding doors on the side and the two passenger door, driver passenger door. And then the passenger door is pushed open, obviously by the driver, and this rough voice of Rosemary West says, in very rude language, I won't do the rude language, "Bleep, bleep, bleep, get in then." Mike, kind of shocked. Now, Mike is inebriated at this time. He doesn't mind telling us all. He's at a skinful, he's on holiday for the weekend or whatever it is. And so this woman in the big glasses and the bobble hat says, "Well, get in." And then he opens his mouth to say, is she going his way? Could she drop him off? And of course, she's got this black country accent. And if people don't know what that's like, it's a little bit toward the Birmingham accent, but not quite. Yeah. So that just gives you an idea of the different sound. And the Gloucester Bristol accent is nothing like it. So she went, "Oh, bleep, 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 who they bleep, bleep, bleep are you?" And he went, "Well, I'm just on leave from the army," because he hadn't got his army uniform on, but he's got his army coat on, one of those big coats. Yeah. And she said, "Well, you better FFF get in, because if he sees you," pointing to Fred West out in the field with a spade, "if he sees you, it'll be all hell to pay." He has no idea, and don't forget he's drunk. So in he sits, and she's yattering on, and then they're driving, and all of a sudden he's got a pull on his sleeve from the back. He didn't even know anybody was in the back. And as he turns round, there's a wee girlie there, probably 15 or 16, tied. And her ankles are tied. She's protesting, "Mister, please help us. She's going to kill us. Help, you've got to help us." Well, Mike was a bit disconcerted by it and thought, what the hell, what's going on? And Rosemary West burst out laughing and said, oh, ignore her. She's my daughter. She's been on, kind of on the raz with men in Bristol. So I've had to tie her up and bring her back. And so Mike kind of thinks nothing of it for a moment until he's pulled again by her with her little, bound wrists. Mister, please, you've got to help. And she indicates that he needs to look to the floor. And as he does, she gets her feet together, her bound ankled feet together, and lifts up a top that's on the bottom. And there he sees a girl, still as death, probably dead, with her eyes wide open, just lying there. And Mike does not know what to think. He thinks, when I asked him and quizzed him many times about this event, I said, so did you honestly think these girls were messing about? Because that's what he said. He went, yeah. He said, you got to remember, Joanna, I was drunk. He said, all I was thinking about was getting home, getting warm, getting comfortable, getting some sleep, that kind of thing. He said, I had no idea. And of course, now this is very early. This is 1971. He believed later. At the time, he was inebriated. He didn't care about it. He didn't think about it. He wasn't interested. He just thought it was girls joking about and with a crazy mother. That's all. Remember, nobody knew who Fred and Rosemary West were. They were the most heinous killers almost on the planet. I mean, they were shocking. And I'm going to roll forward only just a few years. He's still in Germany, but he's come out of the army, and he's in the year or so he's in Germany. So this would be 74 he was out. So this might be 75, 76. He's living with his wife, and they're just divorcing, his German wife. And they had an agreement that she had the key for the apartment, or whichever way around it was, and he had the one for the building, and blah, blah. That's how they worked it. So he'd been out for just a couple of pints. He said, I wasn't drunk, nothing like that, just a couple of pints, talking about my circumstances and the situation, because he was in Germany, thinking, now, God, I've got to get back to England, and worrying all about that. And he realized he didn't have any of the keys to the building with him, apartment or the main building. So then he spies that the cellar window is open a bit, enough for him to get through. Now, the cellar window is great. It goes straight into a cellar, at the end of which is a door that goes into the hallway, and then you're off to whichever apartment you need and whichever floor it's on. And he knew the cellar. I think he'd been in and out a couple of times, so he was familiar with it. I don't think it's, shockingly late at night. It might be 12 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to read the book again myself. And he's getting down sort of stomach first. So he's going down front side first. So he's not facing the room. He's facing the wall where he's coming in through the window. And I say that because he's about to be forced to turn around, because all of a sudden, as he says about 5 feet, 6 feet from the ground, so you don't want to jump too awkwardly, otherwise you could easily, even at that short distance, sprain an ankle. So he said all of a sudden he felt his legs were being tugged on, as if something was pulling him, really pulling him, not just a little tap. This was something really dragging him down. And as he sort of squidged himself around to face what it was, I don't know, I can't remember. I was talking to somebody today, and I can't remember if it's the Harrison Ford, it's the Ark of the Covenant one, where all the wraiths and ghouls come out of the Ark. Yeah. But he said they were like that. But he said that's the nearest things that these things looked to that were pulling on me. And he said, and not only that, he said, the entire room looked different. It didn't look like my cellar anymore. And he said there was a massive black chasm. And these wraith-like ghoulish beings were coming up from there. And they were physical enough to make his physical body feel like it was being pulled down off the ledge of the window. So he said, Joanne, out of all the ET stuff, out of everything that's happened to me, that scared me probably the most. He's really racking his brain in the instant, knowing that it feels like a death situation, like he might be pulled to his death. I'm wondering what the hell to do. And so he thinks, well, the only thing I can do is jump down and just leg it, just really run. and see if I make it, see if I don't go into the chasm and make it across the floor, which he did. And he did make it. So bear in mind that. And now we're going to come forward 5 years to 1994, when Fred West, on the 25th of February, I think, was arrested for, I think, only 5 murders at that time. I say only 5 because I've been working with a dowser, and there's a team working with at the area where Mike believes he was. They think they found it, and they found it at least 7 more burials by remote viewing and dowsing. Yeah, how amazing is that? Anyway, fast forward, as I said, to 1994, when Fred West was arrested, and the police, it's all over the television, the police are showing the cellar. All of a sudden, Mike goes, oh my God, that's the cellar from Germany when those wraith-like beings were trying to pull me into this chasm. It's the exact same cellar. Whatever was on the walls, the images and whatever were there that Mike saw in his cellar transposed onto this TV. I mean, all of these years later. I wouldn't make this stuff up. He phoned the police immediately and said, I saw Rosemary, he then suddenly knew, because he can see Rosemary West and see what she looked, and Fred West, and he said, I had a lift from her and bloody blah, and there were these girls. And the police said, oh, we don't go back that far. Apparently, in recent times, and I'm talking about this year, someone's approached the police to say, not the police in the Gloucester area, but another local to where they live, and told that part of the story, and the policeman said, we would never say that. We would never say it's too long ago. Well, they did. One of the things Mike he wasn't a liar. So whether the police have that protocol now, I don't know, but they certainly didn't in 1994. I mean, if that had been me, I'd have been around that area like a shot. So we were trying to figure out what this link could possibly be with Fred West and Mike Smith, because they didn't know each other personally. They'd never met. They looked extremely alike. So, that's an astonishing story. And just to finish off about that stream of thought about the Fred West look-alike business, and although Fred West was from a different part of the country, was born in a different year, 9 years older, bigger, taller, but facially they really did look similar at one point. When he was older, of course, Fred West killed himself in 1995, so we'll never know what he looked like in old age. And Mike didn't make old age, having died in 2023. He said he was racked with guilt thereafter about the fate and plight of those young ladies, because he said he might have been able to, who knows, save one of them. But he said, and I questioned him again and again, how could you not possibly think that there was something in it, with her being tied and everything? He said, well, Rosemary West gave her to him and inebriated him at that time. Don't forget, he's 20 odd years old, 21, 22. He's just not a worldly person, and he wouldn't be thinking heinous things. He's not that kind of guy. But he said it really racked him with guilt thereafter, thinking, wow, maybe I could have done something. And we'll never know the identity of those 2 young ladies. I mean, there are others who are unknown that we have ascribed Fred West's criminality to, his murders to. But the team, I dip in and out.
Joanne, do you think there's more to come of that story?
I don't think the police will tell you much more. I might do a little video on that. It depends, because the locations are sensitive, of course, because if you've got a farm and there's public access, and suddenly the 7 bodies along that line of your property, it's hard, isn't it? So I don't know how you actually would approach that. I actually do believe it should be followed up with the police. I do believe they should look at the work that we've been doing. Peter Vincent, particularly of the Dowsing Detective films episodes that I've created, that also on the YouTube channel, where he's showing how using color codes with their numerological counterparts, and he can extract unique codes through an ET contact, believe it or believe it not. And these have proven to be, time and again, correct. And the guys have been working on other murder crimes by other people as well, and been finding out an astonishing lot of information, but I won't go into those because it's a lot. It really is a lot. This audio segment is taken from a podcast filmed on the 10th of December 2025 with audio tidied and tightened for comprehension.
Ammach Files. This is the Ammach Files.
It's program 51 of the Ammach Files, and it is the 6th of October. The first hour, I have invited Bill Brooks, but we're going to hear a particular part of Bill's story tonight, but we are going to invite him on first just to hear what it was like to come back from the dead, because this time last year, bar a few days, he died. So he died quite dramatically, and it was only because of an unusual occurrence, i.e. the paramedic had never before had the kit in his bag to do the defib, that he is with us today. Hey, Bill, welcome to the Ammach Files. Bill has had some absolutely anomalous and very strange, high weirdness strange events. Bill, if we can come to you now, let's start this story with your meeting one dark night when you were still recovering from your broken ankles that you sustained during your Special Forces training, and how you were on your weekend off and you were hitching a lift back home. And you're in the sort of Bristol area and you're just on a little street where you actually won't think you'll get a lift. You're walking along there. And tell us the story from there, Bill.
This came 2 years before the download. I knew about this because when they caught him, I realised. Now, I'm not a spiritual person or but after my experience, I know that the spiritual world is from the way that people portray it. It's very different. The dark side and the light side. Most people are on the light side. When I sat next to Rosemary West, in that van, something passed from her to me that was evil. Now, I'm not a Christian, I don't believe in God, but I do believe that there's an evil thing out there, maybe an evil intention maybe, but I'm talking sort of spiritually now. Something passed evil to me. 2 years after this happened, I went into a cellar in Germany and had a horrendous experience. I'm not a person that gets frightened, but that frightened me, and I don't know why. These beings came out of the floor, and I believe it was to do with this experience because his nightmares were of his victims coming out of the ground to kill him. That's what I had for all those years. And also, I had nightmares for 18 years. Just a minute.
That's us, Bill. Bill, mute your Skype, please.
So let me just pick up a couple of pieces, and I didn't know if you said them or not, so excuse me if you did. That on that night you were actually given a lift by Rosemary West that you didn't know was Rosemary West at the time. And just explain what happened in the van.
Well, what happened was I was travelling back between Plymouth and Stourbridge, where my parents lived, where I was staying. And a guy from the Paras, he was a brother of one of the guys in my regiment, which was the Commando Regiment, gave me a lift to just the other side of Bristol. I normally caught the train, or hitchhiked with lorries, but he gave me a lift to there. But he dropped me in a place that I didn't really know where I was. They just dropped me off. You know, it's like Special Forces, they don't care, you know. There you go, find your own way. And I started walking, and I thought, I am completely lost. What do I do? And I couldn't get home. Normally I'd get home for about 9 o'clock to 1:30 to go and have a pint with my mate Mick. You spoke to Mick, haven't you, Joanne?
Mm-hmm.
You spoke to Mick about the ghosty stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That and after my passing out. But it was 9 o'clock by the time I'd realised I was in a position where I wasn't going to get back to Stourbridge before 11 at least. Pubs closed at 10:30 in them days. Except the one that I went in. Now, I went in this pub. They dropped me off just about maybe 10 miles from the suspension bridge at Bristol, 10 miles this side towards Gloucester. And I went in the pub. I thought, well, I'm going to have a few pints, you know. I really, if you know anything about soldiers, especially in the regiments I've been in, you sleep anywhere, you don't care where you are, you can survive anywhere, really. So I went and had I don't know how many pints, 10 pints in this pub or something. Well, as I went in the pub, they said, are you Fred's brother? Now, you've got to remember, at this time, it was nearly 20 years later when I realised what they'd said and who they were talking about. They said, are you Fred's brother? And I said, Fred who? They said, Fred, in the caravan up the road. And I said, no, I'm not his brother. Then some guy turned around and said, oh, you look just like him. And I knew that his brother don't look like him. I know that now. And he said something to that effect. And he said, are you a brother we don't know about? This was the guy behind the bar. And this smart aleck, who was standing a few people away from me, turned around and said, maybe Fred's dad had a bike. Well, I mean, I took a bit of offence at that, you know, in a way. But I thought, no, I won't start here. There's too many in here for me. And my ankles hurt. So I just left it at that. And I stayed. They did a lock-in till about 11:30, you know, locked the doors and people having a drink in there. They let me stay, you know, because I was a soldier. They let me stay. And I came out the pub about 11:30. But I came out the pub and I looked and I thought, where the hell am I? You know, where am I now? What do I do? And I saw this road and I saw the bridge. Went under this road and I thought, well, I'll go that. I knew the way the river went and I thought, well, I'll go that way. It's got to lead me to the main road somewhere. So I went on this back road. It was really isolated, nobody there. And I was just casually walking along and I heard a vehicle behind me and I turned round and I saw what I thought was the old police vehicle. And as I turned and looked, it pulled next to me and the woman that was in it, she was wearing a black hat, come down to her eyes nearly. She had a pair of glasses on and a scarf. So I couldn't see her face at all, really. I saw her eyes, that was all I saw. It was as though she knew me. Now, I looked like Fred West. I did look like Fred West at that time. I'd put a lot of weight on because I'd been off my legs for 3 months. We used to run all day and I was very, very fit. I was quite muscly as well. But what happened was, for that 3 months I was off my legs, I got big like Fred West. And I looked like him. I really did look like him. Found that out when I moved to Telford. That's another story. Before I got in the band, she looked at me and she said, nastily, you're going to get in then? Really nasty, like, as though she was the boss. You know, you'll do what you're told. You're going to get in then? That makes me think she was the main one, you know. I got in the van and I turned around and looked at her and she said, who the, you don't mind me swearing, because this is what she said. Who the fucking hell are you? I mean, she just kept laughing all the time I was in the van. She kept laughing. And I said, I'm a soldier. I'm looking for the main road to find my way. I'm lost, you know. I didn't tell her I was pissed, which I was. That's why all this happened, because I didn't realise what was going on. So I get in the van, and I said, I'm looking for the main road. She said, I'd better get you to the main road before he sees you. And I saw a guy, who must have been Fred, in the field next to me with a shovel. Realising it now, if I'd have clicked on what they were doing, I'd be dead, I think. If he'd have hit me with that shovel, I wouldn't have realised what was going on. I'd be dead. But anyway, I said to her, I'm looking for a main road. She said, well, I'll take you to the main road before he sees you. And I thought, oh, maybe he's just jealous. A jealous husband or something, you know. As she was saying that, there was a girl behind me who looked about 15, maybe 16, very young anyway. But it was very dark. I couldn't see very much in the back of the van. She was pulling at my sleeve saying, help me, they're going to kill me. Then Rosemary West looked at me and I turned back again to the girl. And the girl she had her legs tied together. She was lifting up a tarpaulin with this girl underneath with her eyes wide open. And I thought it was kids playing about after what Rosemary West said. Because this girl said to me, they're going to kill me. And I looked at her and I looked down at the floor and there was this girl staring at me. Well, I thought staring at me. It was quite dark. When I turned back around again, Rosemary started laughing. And that's my daughter. I've had to tie her legs together to stop her running into Bristol. She's going off with men in Bristol. Well, at the time I was pissed. And I had no idea that there could be anybody on the planet that could do what they did. I had no idea. Even though I'd seen the Moors murderers, and I think that was late 50s, I think. I'd seen that, and we were kept in for a while. All the parents kept all the kids in for paranoia. But I'd never seen anything since then. And I just took no notice. She took me to the main road. I got into a lorry that was just coming along, actually. I just thumbed him, and he took me straight away. knowing I was a soldier sitting there. I got my berry on anyway. After about 5 minutes driving, he said to me, "You got out of that black van there." I said, "What black van?" He said, "The one behind us." He said that it's behind us now. And I looked and I thought, oh, took no notice of it. But now I believe that they were following me to see if I stopped at the phone box or something like that. I think I had a lucky escape. I think I would be dead. If I'd have caught on what they were doing, I'd be dead, I think. And I wouldn't have been able to fight back properly. My ankles hadn't healed that well that I could kick.
You said that you feel at that time that something from Rosemary West
when I sat next,
passed to
I'm
you
only
like
thinking that now, though. It didn't seem unnormal. Exactly the same as when I went in the army. All the things that happened, I felt normal. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit stupid sometimes.
Well,
I don't catch on.
Well, we've had a chat about this and over the time, and it seems to me that you were switched off from responding in a way that perhaps you would expect someone to, when you see what would, in hindsight, be a dead body under a tarpaulin being lifted up by the feet of a girl whose ankles are tied. I mean, I know in later years, you've kind of scratched your head and gone, my God, how could I not have felt something about that? But I honestly believe that whatever was going on, this is the point, kind of making, that you were not allowed the full complement of your faculties, because I've come to know you well over the 3 years we've been working, and I can honestly say that now, of course, you would be wide awake to such an event. I just want you to flag up also, what was that 18 years? The nightmares, daymares?
The nightmares didn't start till 1974. This happened in 1971. It was late 71, November 71, around about there.
So we're just going back to what it was like, because it really did disrupt your entire life, eventually your marriage, and really everything about daily life.
It wrecked my marriage. It wrecked my life. It made me not want to be here or anywhere. It was the most horrendous thing you could ever imagine happening to you. It really was. The nightmares were what they were doing. And why I believe, and this is what I believe, if you read the book about what's happened over my life, I can't split that from the UFO stuff. In my mind, I can't split the two. The two things are the same thing. I think they were being looked at as well as I was. I believe I've been studied since I was 10, at least. Looked into brain, I don't know what to call it. But I believe they were as well.
So
I don't think the aliens, whoever they were, I don't think they manipulated them to be what they were. I think they were already what they were. But I think ET, whatever you want to call these entities that have been messing with us, and I've had a few, I believe that they just saw what was going on and wanted to study it. And I believe they used me because, unfortunately, I look like him and I met him. Maybe they wondered why I did nothing about it. Maybe. I've gone all through these scenarios in my head, trying to work it all out. But maybe they thought I hadn't done anything about it. Maybe they thought it was normal to get it. I don't.
It's difficult to portray exactly how these nightmares and also waking daymares impacted you, because we haven't really had time to really go through it.
While that period of time was going on, when I started to realise what was going on, and the nightmare was still coming fast and strong, I refused to sleep unless I passed out. And I used to pass out because I wouldn't sleep for weeks and weeks. I was afraid to go to sleep. And when I slept, I got 2 hours and that was enough. But when I woke up, I had the guilt back again. I had guilt. I believed it was me that was doing it. If you ever look at the story, the real story of the Boston Strangler, they put him into a mental asylum. They never took him to court in the end for all the people he's killed because he didn't know he was doing it. And he used to have flashbacks of what he was doing. And that's exactly what was happening to me. And I thought that I was like him. I thought it was me that was doing the murders. And I thought, any time I'm going to be arrested. And that was my main worry, was being arrested. And the body's coming out the ground. And that's what I believe the cellar incident. You'll have to read the book to understand all this. That's very strange, isn't it, Joanne?
It is really strange.
It's so strange.
It's quite complicated, and it's very hard I mean, I know people won't have understood now because it's not possible just in this brief time that we've had some relatively good sound to get the impression across of what actually was happening to you. But the reason I wanted to flag this event, was because of the incredible difficulty of it and what the folks who are experiencers sometimes have to go through. And clearly with the military element that Bill has endured as well, when he was subjected to absolute mind control programming. We think it's probably using LSD and what have you, but the reprogramming of his mind to try and make him an assassin, to try and make him kill when he was angry. It's something to his credit that he has the will of iron that he has. And, you know, I'm not putting this down to ET. I'm not. It seems that there was a combination of factors involved with Bill's experiences, because right from childhood, he's had experiences. And it seems that the military somehow knew of him and spurred him forward unbeknownst to him consciously. And these things that have happened to him after leaving the military, they've also had him tagged. And we know this for a fact, and we can't go into that here, but maybe another time if people would like to hear. So,
Can I just say that the reason the military used me for whatever they wanted to use me for, and I forgot to tell you this, Joanne, they stopped me going to court for the fighting. They pulled me in. They let me go into the army, even though I was in trouble with the police for fighting and a lot of other things as well. I was in a lot of trouble, right? And I believe they thought they could use me because of that. They got me out of trouble. And I believe they thought, well, we've got him out of trouble, now we can use him for anything. And that's what I believe. I've not told you that.
Yeah, and I understand that. But allied to that, you know, with me as looking from the outside, I see also another layer of the picture, which involves collusion with ET and the military, which we know is true in your case anyway. And I know
the fact that
absolutely.
Some military were involved. I'm not saying... Absolutely. I think there's a lot of military that don't know what's going on. I'm not saying that it was a whole military thing. It was a very small number of officers, 2 in fact, I think, if I remember rightly. About 15 to 16 of us on that abduction, the army abduction, the first one. So I talked to guys I was with 30, 40 years ago. I talk to them now. And even though they've had experiences, the one guy was took up into the air in a Land Rover and put back down again. He's now telling me that it must have been something else. And this is after I haven't spoken to him for 45 years. When I spoke to him first, he said, I remember. He was all excited. Then a week later, he's telling me that it didn't really happen. He works for the police. Maybe he's been told to keep his gob shut, maybe. Absolutely.
Well, listen, Bill, we have to leave you there for the moment. Thank you very much for coming on.
As I said to you, I wasn't in the SAS. I worked with them, but I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
I was in another regiment. I was in another secure regiment, you know, which I don't really talk about all that much, you know. It was only 18 months of my life, you know, one a big deal. You know, and I never even passed all the courses, you know.
Yeah,
I broke my bloody ankles, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's how I ended up meeting Fred West, fucking the Wests. Broke my ankles, and I was stuck doing nothing, and I was working in the side of mess, and I was going home every weekend hitchhiking.
Yeah.
But I got just dropped off in a bad place this one night. You could call it coincidence, I suppose, if you want.
No, I don't think so. I don't believe in the coincidence.
No, I'm wondering if that was a time slip. Because I've looked around that time and I can't see the girls that went missing at that time. I can't see one that... I saw one that looked like it. Remember, it was dark. It was 2 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
I thought she was a milkman because our milkman used to have exactly the same van. Exact van. Same colour, same everything. And I do remember the van, you see. I saw exactly the same van when I was young, you know. Exactly the same van.
I remember you talking about the...
With the round lights, sliding doors. I'm pretty sure it was a comma. Dark blue, very dark blue, nearly black. And as I say, she had a hat on and a scarf up to her, over her nose. I could only see her eyes, and she had glasses on.
Her having a...
But the girl pulling my sleeve. It was September, October time.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that, because it was just starting to go cold. Because I put my parka on. And he was wearing the same parka in the field. How about that? He was wearing an army parka in the field, same as I got on. Because you can buy them in the Army Navy stores. she just stopped the van and said, get in. So I thought she was giving me a lift. I thought, oh, she realised I'm lost or something, you know. And then I saw the girl in the back, and she's pulling my sleeve and all that, you know. And I'm going, what the fuck? She said to me, I better get you onto the main road before he sees you.
Because it says a lot about...
But of course, I just thought at the time she was cold.
Yeah.
You know, because it was a cool night. A scarf over her nose.
Did she have a...
woolly hat, yeah. It wasn't a pom-pom hat. It was like a pom-pom hat, but we had one of them pom-pom things on.
That's fine.
Just a woolly hat. She was laughing.
Oh.
She laughed all the time. She kept laughing and laughing at everything. She just laughed at everything, which sounds really strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, laughing.
Everything I said, she laughed. Everything she said, she laughed. She said, I'd better get you to a main road before he sees you, indicating in the field. He was wearing the same army parka. I think she was on acid or something. They hadn't been caught at the time. It didn't seem anything strange.
Yeah.
And as I've realised, by going on stage after he was caught, everyone started calling me Fred West. Even my friends would come in and show me photographs of me and him and saying, can you tell the difference? Because believe it or not, I was 15 stone.
I got the nickname.
Some of my friends were coming and showing me photographs of me and him. Because I did look so much like him. We were very, very similar, we were. Unbelievable. I wondered if I was his bloody twin. I began to wonder.
I got the nickname Fred.
About the police wouldn't go back any further than 1974. Even his own children have said they need to go back further. And that's his own kids. And I'll tell you something strange as well. His fucking daughter looks like mine. That's weird, I think. When I looked at his daughter, I went, oh my fucking God. She's a lot slimmer than my daughter. If my daughter was slim, they'd look very, very similar. I find that very strange, to tell you the truth.
It is.
I do find that strange. Right, that's that part of the story finished, is it?
Yeah, hang on.
I thought nothing else of it until they caught him.